Welcome to Thinking Women,
the intelligent conversation show.
I'm Max.
And I'm Lou.
And this is our Back to School September edition of the show. So, how are you doing? How's your summer been?
Yeah, well, I've had an amazing summer. It's been busy. Basically, living in Cornwall, we have been the free hotel.
We have.
But, you know, avoiding the COVID that's arrived in the county. But it's all good. I've enjoyed it. I've loved every minute of it. But it's really good to get back to...
It's nice.
I love autumn.
I know, I
back
do.
A bit of structure.
New stationery, new shoes. Talking of
New
which...
shoes. Let's talk about the autumn shoe trend.
And the big shoe debate. So, heels or trainers? So we're back out there now, and we're back in offices, many of us, and the workplace. So what do you think? Heels or trainers?
Well, you come from a background of working in the city, and I know that heels are kind of a prerequisite of working in the city, so I'm kind of assuming you love a heel. Well, you're wearing a heel.
I do, I love
so you're
a
obviously
heel.
out in a heel.
But
so.
a lot of my friends and colleagues have been getting in touch saying, oh, you know, makeup, yes, dress, yes, heels, no.
No.
I think we've got used to our comforts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I mean, to be honest, I would actually go to the supermarket in my slippers, and I've got some very glamorous
Have you got nice slippers?
I've got some nice
I bet
slippers.
you have.
I'm happy to go out in my slippers and my flip-flops, being in Cornwall. But there is a trend for autumn, which Vogue has called, basically it's the ugly shoe trend, right? The ugly shoe trend, which... If you've watched any of our other Thinking Women's, anybody who watches Thinking Women will know that I'm pretty well triggered by a horrible shoe. It just does my head in. Crocs,
Crocs.
Sandals, all of that sort of thing. But Vogue have said that the era of classic elegance for our feet is over. So, Max,
We've
I'm
all
sorry.
just become so comfortable. I'm obviously out of fashion. But, I mean, talking of Crocs, take a look at this little beauty. So this is a Balenciaga heeled Croc.
Well, perfect.
In a
love.
beautiful green. So I can be comfy and tall at the same time.
You're trendy and
trendy, tall and comfortable. Perfect. But there's some other interesting trends going on, isn't there?
Yeah, what about sort of bread and fashion?
The bread-based bag. The bread-based bag. I mean, this is classic as well. It's almost like anything goes, because we've all been at home for so long, we just think, oh, do you know what?
The bread-based bag and the
crisp-based bag as well.
The carbohydrates
Absolutely.
fashion. And then to top it all, look at these shoes. I might
wear those
to the supermarket.
Go and buy your bread and your bread slippers.
Look out in St Ostalasda, I'll be out there.
Anyway, so if you've got any interesting fashion items that you found, then do let us know, because we do love a funky fashion item.
Yeah.
But let's talk about today's show. We've got some amazing guests lined up, haven't we, Lou?
As usual, yeah. I'm talking to Sherilyn McCrory, MP, about the Women's Health Strategy. And I'm also chatting to singer, songwriter and producer Nicole Russo, who was a big part of the Brand New Heavies back in the 90s.
Very exciting.
So two very different interviews, but very cool ladies.
Very exciting. And we've got our fantastic finance expert, Sarah Steele, who will be teaching us how to get from couch to financial fitness. So you might have done the couch to 5K fitness, but this is about getting couch to financial fitness. And also the lovely Marva Williams, who set up her skincare brand, Puriskin, and has also been doing some great charity work. So a really inspiring lady, and they will be on the show today.
Yeah, and a big thanks to Marva and Puriskin for sponsoring this episode of Thinking Women. Sherilyn, welcome to Thinking Women again. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Oh, brilliant. So this time we're here to talk about the Women's Health Strategy. So what is it and why did it come about?
So the Women's Health Strategy is an initiative by the Department of Health, particularly the Minister Nadine Dorries. And it's come about because, well, you know and I know, we all have anecdotal stories about how women find it very difficult to get diagnoses for anything that is construed as women's problems. Yes. And, you know, we've been hearing these stories for years and years and years. And I only became an MP in 2019, but I immediately was approached by a constituent who had her endometriosis diagnosis 7 years after she first started going to the doctors for that. So obviously that piqued my interest. I wanted to find out what was happening, and thankfully this is happening now. So there was a consultation which the government put out earlier in the year. I think it finished earlier this summer. We've had over 100,000 women.
Oh, amazing. Because I was going to ask, what was the take-up like? Because I've got to be honest with you, I didn't think it was brilliantly publicised. I heard about it through you. But it was a good take-up.
Yeah,
it was.
It was a really good take-up, and that's what we've had to do. We were all encouraged as women MPs, across the House, by the way. This is something that goes above party politics, thank goodness.
Okay, good, yeah.
And we were all asked to put it out on all of our own networks, because that was the way that we could get it there. So even though it went through the usual channels, guess what? Mainstream media wasn't interested, didn't pick it up on the news in the same way.
Exactly. I don't think I heard about it on the mainstream news. And it's so important. Well, why do you think that is? I mean, it's the women's health strategy, and this is all about looking, as you say, into the whole planning of women's health across everything from work to childbirth, to menopause, to everything. And why do you think the mainstream media didn't pick up on that? Because it's huge.
Well, the cynicist in me, or the raging feminist in me, will probably say it's women's troubles again. And I think it's always seen as daytime TV, soft subject. It's not seen as a, you know, I don't know why, because it affects 50% of the population. It's our health. It's the most important thing to us and to our families. But for some reason, I think media still sees this as a sort of daytime telly soft subject. And I don't know the reason for that. I think if men had to put up with the years of pain that some women have to put up with because of what goes on in their female bodies, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It would have been sorted out probably 100 years ago by now. But we do,
Well, thank God it's happening. It's happening now, so that's absolutely fantastic. So what do you think, what's the aim of the outcome? What are we hoping to see as a result of this survey, and what will the government put in place, do you think?
Well, what they're trying to do is find the evidence. So this is what the consultation is about. So we, as I said at the beginning, we've all heard anecdotal stories. This is going to produce evidence from hundreds of thousands of women. And then what we can do is put together a strategy which includes what government has to do, what the workplace can do, what health professionals need to be able to do, health professional training, so what the General Medical Council can include in their training, to include things like menopause, which I think they are starting to do now, so that when you go into the GP surgery and say, I've got this pain, they're not going to dismiss it. They're not going to potentially misdiagnose you just so that they can get rid of you. They're not going to prescribe, hopefully, they're not going to prescribe antidepressants when actually what you need is HRT. You know, I've heard stories of, I heard one woman who went in she was dismissed because she had period pains. She'd actually had a slipped disc. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, you're going to see a GP and they just need to get on, they need to get you done and on to the next patient because everybody's so busy. And I do think that a lot of them aren't investigating the individual, not looking at your history, not looking at you holistically. Hopefully this will address that, and you know, the more training will happen, and then actually people will, and this, I have to say, this is not all GPs. We have a whole lot of really good ones as well.
Oh, absolutely.
But it is a lottery at the moment.
It is true. We all have anecdotal evidence. Both of us sitting here, we know we've been at the receiving end of not the greatest care for our women's problems, health. And honestly, if you just do a little survey around your own friends and family, we all have stories of things that, you know, being dismissed or misunderstood or misdiagnosed. And it's, you know, it's very depressing. So, you know, this is amazing strategy to come into place, but it doesn't just apply to the NHS and GPs. It's all about the workplace as well, isn't it? And how women's health needs to be discussed there.
So to be, yes, absolutely agree. And I think to be slightly facetious about it, but I have heard these real life examples where a woman will say to her employer, you know, I'm very menopausal, this is what, you know, what have you got in place to make reasonable adjustments for this? And they put a fan on her desk. And it's like, or they put it near the window, and it's
kind
a
of
little bit kind of
humiliating.
Yeah,
really,
so hopefully a little bit actually. So hopefully this strategy will be able to educate employers, HR departments, and so people can be a bit more sensitive about it. If you've got your occupational therapist in there, they'll be able to make reasonable adjustments without showing you up to the rest of your work team saying, oh look, there's the 40-something-year-old woman or the 50-something-year-old woman, let's pop her out the window. It's horrendous. It's awful. But you know, perhaps there needs to be a little bit more sympathy around what's going on with her, and perhaps she could work from home when things are difficult, and you know, productivity will remain high because she's being listened to, and it's all about that, making sure we're all being listened to.
I mean, going back to the menopause, I mean, so many women that I know, a large number of women that I know have either given up work during the menopause or really thought really seriously about it. And and the workplace could lose huge amounts of very talented and brilliant women.
Well, it is, and I think so 2 points there. One of the sectors that is happening in the most is nursing. We are losing so many nurses over the age of 50 just because they can't cope physically with the demands of their job when they're trying to go through menopause, and so they just think, you know what, I'm going to give up because I can't cope with this. So we need to address that. Actually, these are our best, most experienced nurses, and we need to hang on to them. But also think about, if you go back through history, and women's health has been dismissed forever, hasn't it, since Aristotle? So how many brilliant discoveries have we missed out on because we've not been listening to us, or we've just dismissed us when we've become old and put on the shelf? I just think we've got so much to offer, and hopefully now everybody can see that. We've had the vote for 100 years, thank goodness, and now we can, hopefully we'll be listened to, and we just won't, because when you're feeling rough because of the menopause or perimenopausal or any condition that's being misdiagnosed, or you're not being listened to, you're just not productive anymore. You just don't feel like yourself. All you want to do is curl up on the sofa, and how on earth can the world hear from your brain if that's what's happening to you?
Well, at least it's moved on from the days of being put in an asylum for hysteria. Things have moved on, but there's still obviously work to do, and it's just brilliant that. So, what do you think? How, just as a final note, have you a vision of how this will work? As in, will it become laws that put in place? How do you think it actually? People will have to respond. Companies will have to respond.
Okay, so I asked that direct question, and I think they're still working on how it's going to look. So the bods in Whitehall are number crunching and working out and looking at the consultation at the moment. And I believe the government response will happen in the autumn. What I will be pushing for is definitely guidelines around the employment and the NICE guidelines. Definitely around medical training. But whether you want to legislate for that, I'm not sure. Whether that is required or not. So I think we just need to wait and see at this stage. But we've got a united parliament on this, and I have to say it is mostly women still, but some men. But it's across the House, and we're all saying the same thing. And we've got one of the initiatives in Parliament is the 50-50 Parliament, to try to get to make sure Parliament is 50-50, and we're heading towards that now. We've got an awful lot of women in there, and we're all speaking with one voice. We need to get this done, and we need to be listened to, and hopefully, this autumn we'll see the next step in that journey.
Brilliant. Come on, ladies. We've got the power. Let's seize it. Sherilyn, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Our next guest is a songwriter and a producer. She's also a singer with one of the biggest bands of the 90s, the Brand New Heavies. Welcome to Thinking Women, Nicole Russo.
Hi.
So let's go back to those days first of all.
Yeah, sure.
What memories have you got of those days? Was it a good time? Were you aware that you were part of one of the biggest kind of movements in British music?
Yeah, I think that was, it felt like a real honour. Initially I thought, oh, hang on a minute. I've just come off the back of my own solo album, and now I'm stepping into, this band that's already so established, and you're aware that it could be a poison chalice because everyone's going to have their favourite, like Seda Garrett or India Davenport, whoever, and you have that feeling of, is this going to be a good move? But initially it was, for me, it wasn't to be their singer, it was to have me write top lines and songs on a load of music they had.
So quite a different thing
so
then.
So that was fun. And then they said, hey, do you want to do this tour of Southeast Asia? And I was like, oh yeah, I love, haven't been to Japan in ages, that'd be great. And then it just sort of went on from there, and they were like, do you want to join the band? Well, all right then.
So you were establishing yourself in your own solo career at the time. So yeah, how did it feel to be asked to do that? Did you really question it? Because obviously you make a decision, and your life will take a different course when you make a big decision like that.
Yeah, it really did, because I'd worked so hard I'd turned down so many record deals, I'd turned down so many things, because it was like, I know what I want to do, I know what it needs to sound like, I know what kick drum sound I want, I know what snare drum sound I want, I know exactly, it's very difficult to work with other people when you identify so much with what you want to create, and you have something so specific you want to say. And so, yeah, but having kind of gone through that, had my first record deal and just watched a record label tear my album to shreds, it was a bit like, well, contracts aren't worth anything, are they? So maybe this will be fun to be a part of a unit where it'll be harder for people to mess with us, because that was my battle, I suppose, as an artist, was to be taken seriously as a woman who wanted to produce her own music, write her own music, mix her own music, and well, you can't do that. Why can't I do that? And because you're young, or whatever, or because you're a woman. It's not really a woman's job. I actually heard that a few times. In fact, the best quote I ever heard was, "Listen, you're either Spice Girls or Puff Daddy." That shows you how long ago it was. Puff Daddy. Take your pick. And I was just like, no, I'm not. I'm just not.
I mean, you hear these stories, but to hear that out of the horse's mouth, it's pretty shocking to hear that. So you were young. Mm-hmm. So how did you challenge that? Because I know you didn't play the game, or you said already that you turned down a few record deals. Yeah. You were confident. You were obviously confident in your own abilities and talent.
Yeah.
But when men are coming at you with this level of negativity, what did you find inside yourself to be able to kind of deflect that and grow?
Yeah, I think it's just when you're so hungry, which is a youthful thing, isn't it? That drive and that hunger, and I've just got this thing to say and I've got to say it. And I hunger for that hunger now, because I find myself going, I really want to say, there's things to do, but that fire that you have, and the confidence, I suppose, is it wasn't as much confidence as just determination not to be stopped, I think, and not willing to compromise on it. I didn't want to be. That's why I chopped all my hair off. My first album, it's like, and in fact, I think I'm not sure which photo it was. It may be on the back of the album cover, but I just bought all these great big hair clips, because they wouldn't let me cut my hair any shorter. They were like, the record label, you're not doing it. And I was like, so I got all these hairpins and I pinned my hair as close to my head as I could get it. And I think in a way I was just trying to desexualize myself. And so it's not about how I look, and it's about what I'm saying, it's about how I sound, it's about trying to make a connection with people. But then with the heavies, I think it was like, forget all that. Now I just want to have this huge afro and be really girly and glamorous and have lots of fun, because I think I went through that.
And it was such a great look.
Thank you.
I mean, honestly, it was like the epitome of, to me, glamour. And the way you look kind of epitomised that whole genre to me, in the videos. You just looked amazing.
Thank you.
But did you feel that was you? I mean, you obviously felt very comfortable.
Yeah, that was the point at which I think the guys were trying to rein me back a bit, because I was like, why don't we do a photo shoot where we're all naked? And they were like, well, I'm not sure about that.
Maybe their body confidence wasn't as high as yours. Shame, boys.
Yeah, I think it was kind of right. Well, I've done that now. I've tried to be heard. I've tried to be this person, and actually the record label took the recordings, they remixed them, they made them sound nothing like I'd spent all this time slaving over it, making it, and they just took the masters, gave them to people, remixed them, and put it on the album. I mean, the day that me and Egg White, who I co-wrote and co-produced my debut album with, when we got it, we're like, it looks great, put it in, and we waited for it to start, and when it began, I remember looking at him, and his mouth was open, my mouth was open, and we just cried. We just cried, because it was, what have they done? And now they've printed 150,000 copies. There's nothing we can do about it.
So this is the latest one that's...
No, this was
this is going back.
Yeah, this is my debut album.
But did you work with Egg White again, though?
No, I haven't worked with Egg White since, oh my goodness, I haven't worked with Egg White since about 2003.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. So that was the debut album that was released in 2002. And I think we kind of came out that bit traumatized and a bit like, wow,
But when you were working with him, that was a good experience.
That was a wonderful experience. Yeah. It was just such an amazing experience. I mean, he was just, he was such a great person to learn from. I'd worked with so many people up to that point, and I used to learn by osmosis. I used to love watching people, what they did. and he was just a rule breaker, and that was what was great about him. He was somebody that was like, you're not supposed to do that, then let's do it. You know, you're not meant to have the microphone there because there's loads of echo. Do it, you know, and everything that we did was sort of wrong, but it worked. And it was just, so it was interesting after that when I'd go into studios with people and they'd say, well, you can't do that. And I'd be like, why can't I do that? I want to do that because it's not the done thing. Okay, it doesn't mean it shouldn't be done.
I've actually done it before,
yeah.
So actually you can do it. Yeah. So then you present your album, this body of work that you've worked really hard on, and you know that that's your voice and that's your sound and everything, and they just completely obliterate that.
They did.
How does that?
It's crazy because
I cried, I know, but how do you come back from that?
It's difficult. It's really difficult because then relationships start to fray, you know, with your record label. Because I remember when I had I fought hard to have in my contract that it had to be 50% approval on any decisions made, any production decisions made, any remix decisions, anything. They had to get permission from me. And so when this thing turned up, it was like, well, you can't do that, but we've done it. And I said, well, but you can't do that. Well, sue us. And it's like, well, yeah. And then you look into what it's going to take to sue. It's just like, end your career. So what's the point? So you sort of go, well, okay, I've got to wear this like a jacket. I hate the way 90% of it sounds. It sounded like cheap R&B. Whereas, you know, the production that we did, it was so timeless. It sounded like a cross between Sly and the Family Stone, Aretha Franklin. It was, and a bit of hip hop thrown in, you know. It was a great sound, yeah. And years later, because then they tried to get me to sign a deal in New York with Joanna Ifrah, and I refused to do the deal because they wanted to make a house record out of it. And I said no, and I just put my foot down and said, I'm not doing it. And so that was it. And the record label literally said, if you don't do this deal, we're going to bury your career. And I said, fine.
This is terrifying because I worked in the music industry back in those days for a little while, for a couple of years, and I've heard similar stories. And largely, I have got to say it was largely directed towards women or female-fronted bands.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it's true.
Yes, why aren't you a puppet? How dare you not be? You know, so
the thing is, if you fight back, that's when they're like, we're going to bury you.
Yeah.
So you can't fight back.
No, you can't fight back. You can't fight back. It's exactly right. Because then it's like, if you don't do this deal, we're going to bury your career. And then a load of my albums sort of went missing. Oh, there's a problem at the warehouse. We don't know where they are. And you think, wow, you can't fight it. You can't fight it, yeah. And years later, the head of the A&R, who's a guy called, oh God, I've forgotten his name all of a sudden. But he
should he be forgotten?
Yes, he should. He should. He came back to me and said, you know, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. Okay. You know, I've listened back and actually it was really good. And yeah.
Well, more for him, because he could have made his mark on the music industry by him sticking his neck out.
Yeah.
You know, supporting you.
Yeah.
You know, and not sort of towing the company the money line.
Yeah.
Do you think it's better at all these days? I mean, they're pretty shocking stories. That any young female singer or songwriter is listening to your story. It's shocking, but
yeah.
do you think
I hope so.
It's better now?
I hope so. I think it probably is. But, you know, especially with what's happened with the whole Me Too, you know, movement, you know, Harvey Weinstein and everything, I think it really brought it to the front. And I think it made people think, well, actually, yeah, maybe I'll get busted if I do this. Rather than, you know, for years, it's just always that sort of nudge, nudge, wink, wink, old boys club thing. And I think it was just like, well, I'm just going to get away with it. I mean, people were so blatant about it. It was quite shocking because they knew that, I guess if you sort of spoke out against them, you'd get blackballed. And I was blackballed after that incident. I was pretty much blackballed, and I just couldn't seem to get any traction anywhere. I couldn't seem to get any, you know, people would hear my stuff and I'd hide that it was me. Like the new stuff I was writing, they'd be like, this is amazing. The second they find out it was me, they didn't want a bar of it. So it was like, wow, okay. So, you know, and while I was sort of going through and navigating that, then I had this offer with a Brand New Heavies, and I thought, well, how wonderful just to be not the person in the front.
Yeah.
Just
the pressure is off a little bit.
Pressure's off. I can just, you know, I can give them songs, I can give them melodies, I can record it all for them, and then they can. And then they said, "Do you want to come with us?" And I did. I think I saw them as protection. It was like, well, I'm surrounded by men, so I'll be all right. You know.
And did that work?
Yeah, that was. That was interesting because then you're dealing also with egos, but also with the heavies. What was you know, they were a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun.
And you must have had some great experiences.
Oh, great experiences!
Going to Asia and
really great experiences. But kind of what sort of revealed over time with them is, I mean, they, you know, the three remaining heavies, you know, being Andrew, Simon, and Jan Kincaid, they'd all been friends since they were 5 years old. So there was a lot of history there. There was a lot of history. Actually, no, it was very fractious. It was incredibly fractious. And
were you being like the sort of like classic female piece?
Yeah, I was always trying to sort of smooth over. And actually, you know, it was Jan, because I'd been asked to write a song with Jan by the management company, and that's sort of how I first got into the heavens. And he was like, "Do you fancy, you know, writing a few songs for us?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And then it was like, it just kept on leading one thing onto another. But in that time, me and Jan became like my best mate. We only lived 15 minutes apart, and we were just hanging out all the time. I was hanging out with him and his kids, going to the park. And so I remember when I think I must have been in the heavies for around about, I don't know, 5 months. And I could see our relationship was, you know, we were getting really close. And I just sort of said, no, this would be a really bad idea. We have to stay friends. And he was like, no, the guys are saying, why aren't you guys together? You're made for each other. So we did. We got into a relationship 6 months in. And a lot of people now say that was a really bad move. But, you know, he convinced me it was a good move. So it seemed like it was okay. But I think that really destabilized, you know, people's positions or feelings of power as well.
You were the Yoko Ono.
I was,
weren't you?
That's what I was described as. I was described as the Yoko Ono of the brand new heavies. But Jan stayed. He stayed in the band after I left, so I can't be accused of breaking them up. They're not together anymore, but yeah.
It wasn't to do with you.
No.
Oh. So what now? What are you up to now? What do you are you writing still? I think.
Yeah, I am. To be honest, I really sort of took a step away from it for a while. I needed a break. And when I went to live in Hong Kong, you know, I was like determined. I want to transfer my skills, my creative skills, out of music to convince myself I can do something else. Because I think I felt a little bit hostage to the music industry. And music wasn't the problem, the industry was the problem, the people in the industry. So I thought, right, maybe I can transfer my skills into film. And so I started a film production company in Hong Kong, and I started to get into a lot of screenwriting, script writing. I wrote a play, had a lot of fun, and Hong Kong's a great place to do that. So I got to really, it's a great place to do that, I would say, because they do not treat women differently there, and I really have to point that out. It's amazing how women are really treated exactly the same, and I found that, wow. You know, I would say, hey, I've got this idea, and people would be like, okay, let's hear it, and if I like it, I'll fund it. And it was just really easy to get momentum going. It helped that their economy was really buoyant, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I sort of learnt lots of different things while I was there, and when I came back, I continued on with a lot of my voice acting work and narrating books. So I narrated a bunch of books for Audible and produced those and released those. That was easy with a little girl. So, but now...
so you've got to fit.
Fitting around being a single mum.
A mum,
yeah. But yeah, enjoying now sort of getting back into producing a few records for a great singer I'm working with called... Selena Hobbs, she's fantastic, and so we're kind of producing, getting some recordings done, and it's great to be doing music again.
Creating,
yeah.
Well, the thing is as well, these days you can create without that pressure. All of that stuff that you dealt with back in in the big music industry days, you can crack on and do a lot of it on your own, can't you?
Exactly.
Without that pressure. And final thing I need to ask you about, you mentioned the book. I think you've got to get this book out. Tell me about this book that you're working on, because I want to read this book.
I'm only halfway through it, and I'm just desperate to finish it. But it's about a lot of my insane experiences in the music industry. It's all about the music industry, and it's about this complex, insane, beautiful, mess that it is. And just because there are so many stories that you gather over all the years of touring and all the different songwriters and producers that you work with, and a lot of my songs, you know, they seem to ask me in Asia a lot more, I think, but they'd be so interested. Who was that about? Who's that song about? And who? Because even on the, should I say, even on the brand new Heavies album, I wrote a song called "I Feel Right," and it was at a time when I was wanting to leave the Heavies and things had become quite fractious, and I was like, I'm really ready to leave now. And the entire song is about the fact of me wanting to leave the band, and it managed to make it onto the album because they never really listened to the lyrics. Bless them, but they're fantastic. I love them. They're great and they're talented, and we had a lot of fun, obviously. But yeah, I sort of started looking through a lot of these songs that I'd written. I wrote another song called "Slowly Walk Away," which is about somebody who had a lot of dealings with, and I kind of thought, wow, I could write a pretty cool musical and incorporate all these songs, which really paint a picture of, you know, from the beginning all the way through my career.
Amazing.
And so I thought, well, I'll write a book, and then off the back of the book, then I'll write a musical, because the music's already there. So
you've got to do that. There's no keeping this woman down. And from a female perspective, I just think, you know, going back, and the musical sounds just fantastic, but, you know, a book about the music industry from the female perspective, from all the angles that you look at it from as well, not simply a performer, you know, and if you could really deep dive into that, I mean, I think that's going to be a blockbuster.
Thank you.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining us on Thinking Women.
Pleasure.
Fascinating.
So today in the world of finance, I want to mention a fantastic new service which has been launched by the Money and Pension Service. It's the Money Helper Couch to Financial Fitness, and it is a free 9-week plan aimed at building our confidence in dealing with our finances. So Couch to 5K was aimed at our physical fitness. This one's aimed at our financial fitness. Now, all you need to do to access this free service is search for the Money Helper website, and the Couch to Financial Fitness is the first hot topic on the homepage. If you click on that, it's going to give you two options. The first one is Money Essentials, and that is weeks 1 to 4 of the plan. And then the other one is the Money Milestones, and that's for weeks 5 to 9. So click on the Money Essentials, and it's going to take you through some key topics. Things like managing your budget, staying on top of bills, how to cut costs, and how to build your savings. And once you've got these basics mastered, then you can move on to the milestones. And that's going to include subjects like what to think about financially when you're starting a family, or what to do financially if you're looking to buy a home. Now, this is a fantastic free tool from Money Helper. It's full of information, full of tips to get your finances under control. And you can work through this plan as slowly or as quickly as you'd like. Now, I'm always on the lookout for apps and websites that are going to help people to reduce their money stress. So just expect a few more website and app recommendations from me over the coming months. I'd love to hear about how you're getting on with your Couch to Financial Fitness, so please feel free to contact me at the Better With Money website, where you'll also find loads of free resources, things like free budget planners, food planners, which really help you to get back on track. So good luck with it, and I'll look forward to seeing you next month.
So our next guest is the lovely and very inspirational Marva Williams from Puriskin, who's got a fantastic story about her business that she set up in 2013. Hello Marva, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you
and
very
welcome
much.
to Thinking Women.
Thank you for having me.
It's so nice to have you on the show, and we've had a little chat in the green room about your story, which is quite unbelievable really. I mean, you've really sort of taken your business and you're making some great things happen. And tell me, who is this that we've got with us as well?
This is Eden the bear.
Eden the bear.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about Eden a bit later, but he's here for a very special reason as well, isn't he? So, Marva, you set up Puriskin 2013, which is a skincare brand, and we've got some beautiful products here. And you were the founder of the business. And
yeah, I was one of the founders of the business in 2013. That's right.
And you've now got about 20 products.
Yeah, we've got 20 products and counting.
And tell me a bit about what you actually do. So what does Puriskin do and what does your business do?
Okay, Puri Skin basically is owned by Beauty Stable, and Beauty Stable, what we actually do is we make skincare products for people. We make anxiety products, sleep sprays, we contract manufacture for people. So Puri Skin is just one of the brands under the Beauty Stable branding, basically.
Under the company. Yeah. And that all sounds absolutely fantastic. But when we were talking earlier, you were telling me that you started out in your kitchen.
Yes, we started making products in our kitchen, and we've developed the products over a period of time via trial and error. We work with medical practitioners in developing products that they use in private practice. And now we are basically have our own factory thanks to our investors in Beauty Stable.
That is a great journey. So we hear lots of people set up their own business and they start off on, you know, in their kitchens and they're doing things, but to actually then get the investment and to grow and to get to a point where you're manufacturing and you're making products which you're white labeling for other businesses as well. I mean, that's quite amazing. So tell me, what gave you the edge? What has allowed you to grow your business to become in that sort of business as opposed to it just still being you?
To be honest, it was making the decision to take investment in 2019. The two investors that invested in the business, they, you know, really believed in what we were doing. And they made the decision to invest, and, you know, after a lot of thought and, you know, illness and various things, we decided to take the investment from them, and that's how Beauty Stable, you know, was actually born.
And this is key because we all know, especially as women, but people don't really like taking help, do they? We like to do things ourselves, and to sort of get to that stage where you say, do you know what, actually, I can't do this on my own anymore. I'm going to ask for help. How did that feel for you when you got to that?
I think because I wasn't well in 2019, there was a lot of hard decisions that had to be made. And when my two business partners approached me to invest, you know, it was quite a hard decision to make. But what I do think it was the best decision to make, because they've not only invested in the business, but through their own business expertise, they've also guided us in the direction of the business. And, you know, even when the pandemic, for a great example, when the pandemic happened last year, we'd only not long taken this investment, and we literally switched over overnight to doing hand sanitizer. And because of them and, you know, their business know-how, you know, they were able to guide the business through the pandemic. We started making hand sanitizers, and through their own contacts, we were basically, you know, shipping hand sanitizers into hospitals. I know even the hospitals in Cornwall got some of our hand creams and hand sanitizers during the pandemic.
So they really did help you, as well as just the money. They got involved and helped you out as well in terms of directing the business.
Exactly.
So well worth
with their expertise.
Exactly.
And
do you think you would have got to where you are today without them?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
It's hard, isn't it? You know, that asking for help or realising that, you know what, this has become bigger than me.
Yes.
We need to do something different. It's so brave to actually take that step, because many people don't. So, and it's obviously paid off. But so tell me about Eden. So why is he here?
Okay, well, Eden, what we've been doing over the last couple of months is be working on sleep and anxiety products, which is really our main push in the business at the moment. And we've developed products with medical practitioners, and we've also been supporting different organisations in raising money for mental health and mental awareness. Eden is going to be coming with us on our travels as the bear to, you know, it's okay not to be okay, a nice little hug. He's going to be, you know, my little companion, because it does get lonely when you travel on your own.
Yeah,
so he's my new little companion that will be coming with us and, you know, on our travels, and really advocating that, you know, if you need help, speak to somebody. So yeah,
definitely. And I hear that Eden raised quite a bit of money. Was it last week?
Well Eden didn't.
Not even himself.
Eden himself didn't. But we sponsored Bring Back Billy. I think I'm saying that right. And he raised now £8,500 for the Fletcher Ward in Bodmin. so which is a mental health ward.
Brilliant. So an amazing product, really helping people and doing the charity stuff as well, and a great story. So thank you so much.
It's good to give back.
It is, absolutely. Thank you so much for talking to us, Marva.
Thank you.
Well, there you go, ladies and gents. Another amazing show, we think, of Thinking Women. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, our groups on Facebook.
Lots of groups.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere. Or you can email us, of course, to tell us what's been in your inboxes and what's been on your minds. And thanks again to our sponsors. And we will see you again soon.
See you soon.
Bye.